Welcome to the Divorce Talk with Twyla Show, where we talk all things divorce, and you will be inspired, informed, encouraged, and empowered. Now, let's welcome our host, Twyla M. Marks, the divorce recovery expert. She is Coach Twyla, the Get Your Happy Back Divorce Coach.
Hello, everyone. I'm Twyla M. Marks. I am the divorce recovery expert, aka Coach Twyla, the Get Your Happy Back Divorce Coach. Thank you all so very much for tuning in on tonight. And today's show is Divorce Saints, the series, part 3. Can y'all believe it? This is the last episode of the series, and my God, it has been power-packed. And great information has been talked about, and I've had some amazing guests, and I've had some great reviews on this series. And let me tell you, the first week, the first episode, Miss Amy Pettijohn, she is a Christian blogger. She kicked it off, and my God, she shared some amazing, great information. She shared her story, which unfortunately, it was a very sad story, but this topic is so prevalent in the church today as it relates to how the church handles divorcees and the lack of support. And then last week, episode 2, I had my friend, Pastor Kenton D. Wiley. He's a pastor there in Maryland of the Never Alone Christian Center. He and I discussed how he counsels couples, as well as how he believes the church should provide more support. And I asked him, what does that look like? He said it looks like the same thing for any other ministry where you have an Alcoholic Anonymous ministry. You have folks that are recovering from drugs. You have folks that are recovering from any other thing. Why not have a support group for divorcees that are recovering? So that brings me to tonight. And y'all, listen, I have an amazing guest, another great guest, and she is going to talk about how she started a ministry in her church, a divorce support group. And I cannot wait to dive right into this conversation on tonight. And I know you're ready as well, because you've been tuning in every week for this series. So I have Miss Larvetta Loftin with me on tonight. So let's just welcome Miss Larvetta to Divorce Talk with Twyla. Hello.
Hello, Twyla. It's so good to see you, and the sun is just shining on me right when we start. So yeah. I'm going to just position myself just a little bit. Hold on one second.
Yes. Y'all know we're on daylight savings time now, so we've got all this sun coming in.
Yes, and I'm excited that we've got all this sun coming in, but it's not working for us. Okay, sun passed. Okay.
We can see your beautiful face now, so let's go for it. Yes.
Well, I'm excited, Twyla, to be here. I'm just excited to have this topic. This is something that is near and dear to me, and I'm passionate about it. It's crazy. You are my first interview since COVID. I have been really focused on helping individuals get healed during COVID. It was a lot that we had to help people unpack during COVID. So the fact that I am able to be here this evening, because we typically have classes on Monday. So I'm able to get away and meet with you and interview with you about this really, I think, vital topic. I think it's super vital. And I think what you're doing is amazing. So I thank you for just allowing me to be here and be able to share how I kind of got here.
You're welcome. So Larvetta, why don't you just introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners, and then we'll dive right on into our topic on tonight. But yes, thank you so very much for being here with me.
So my name is Larvetta Loftin, and I go by Larvetta Loftin. On my handle is Larvetta Speaks. So I am here as a woman who's been divorced 7 years now. I run a marketing company out of Chicago, where I help various companies to be culturally sensitive. And that is helping them to connect to their audience so that they too can really understand some of the things that people are challenged with and how to communicate with them. So in the course of that, I started this ministry probably about 4.5 years ago. No, it's been about 5 years. I started this ministry strictly, I'm gonna be honest with you, Tawala, I'm not sure that I had a reason well, yes, I did have a reason. I wrote my pastor a letter, and I said
Okay.
to him, it started off with, I had just got over divorce. I was in a divorce support group. And why aren't we as a church, as this large church, why we're getting people married? You guys supported me in my marriage, but there's no support in divorce.
Yeah.
So I sent a letter to him. And to be honest with you, I sent it for him to pray for those, as as that's an area for prayer. It's a very, I think, isolated to me area. And I wanted him to be able to be in prayer and wrap people, that were going through it. But that's not something we talk through. And so lo and behold, Twyler, he then said, okay, I want you to lead it. And I didn't particularly,
Wow.
I didn't write the letter to lead it. I wrote the letter for him to have compassion and love and really be able, as our shepherd, to shepherd our the sheep through that process, right?
Right. So, Larvetta, when you say you wrote a letter, was this an email or was this a physical letter you mailed to the church? And that son is messing with your face all over again. We need to see you, girl.
It's gonna pass because like you said, it's daylight. It's gonna pass. We're on the side where it's gonna pass.
Yes.
I wrote an email, Twyla. I wrote an email. I wrote an email to him, and I did. But I remember, I believe I subject letter to my pastor.
Okay.
I did do that.
And so, how long after you wrote the letter he received it? How long did it take for you to receive a response?
I want to say it had to be so maybe about 3 or 4 months later. It was about 3 or 4 months later. He asked me to come speak at the church and share my testimony. And I didn't want to do it. I fought, I kicked. I was like, I'm not ready to share my story. Let me say this. I thought I wasn't ready. Let me say this. I thought I wasn't ready to share my story. And he said, nope. He said, you need to be here. There are so many women that need to hear your story. And so, it's your pastor. You're like, okay. So I went through with it. Twyler, I was on there. It was an hour panel.
Wow.
We were done. Let's just say it was like 8:30. I was mesmerized with the responses that people sent me, either text me, hit me on Facebook. It was overwhelming. Like, oh my gosh. And so I literally said, God, are you using me in this place of divorce? And at that moment, I'm gonna be honest with you. It was like a sting. I was like, so literally I had a failed marriage and now you want me to help others to be restored and recovered from it. Like, I'm not the perfect person. Like, it didn't work for me. So, and it's crazy because after that was the moment when I said, God, you've called me here, that you've called me here to help your sons and daughters to be to submit to the calling. I didn't immediately say yes. But as I began to submit to the calling, I asked the Lord to make sure that he lines me up with a male leader who could co-lead this with me. I didn't want this to be I was very clear, Twy. Let me be clear. I was very clear that I didn't want a ministry that said that we don't support marriage. I was very clear. And I asked the Lord to give me wisdom in ensuring that when people see our ministry, that they still see love, that they still see compassion, right?
Right.
And that something occurred that didn't allow for us to live in holy matrimony, right?
Right.
And so I worked really, really hard to ensure that that narrative was protected. And I'm serious about it because I remember, Twyla, I went to present to the church the numbers. Like the numbers were unreal of the people that were signed. I mean, the second year we had 25 people who had registered.
Okay, that was what I was going to ask. So let's back up. So we have a lot of people tuning in and wanting to know, because the last 2 weeks I have just talked about the issue in the church as it relates to lack of support. And you are a guest that has started a support group. So let's navigate through this. Okay. So for people that are watching right tonight and listening tonight and will watch the replay as well as listen to the replay, let's take baby steps. So Larvetta, you wrote a letter to your pastor. It was about 3 or 4 months later before you received a response, and the response was he wanted you to come share your testimony to the church or during a church service.
Yep. It was
was it a women's event or it was just a regular?
It was a Thursday night Bible study. It was a Thursday night Bible study.
Okay. So you shared your story and your testimony, and from that, the response was overwhelming as it relates to people that were in the same space as you were, right? But the pastor, now correct me if I'm wrong, the pastor, the leadership, because this is very important and it's all a part of this series to bring awareness to the church body of Christ. Yeah. So the pastor, was he not aware that this was an issue or lack, or let's talk about that.
So, and I love to say, we have an amazing leader and pastor who is really tapped into the spirit. So much so, Twilight, he married a woman that was divorced.
Okay.
So he was not disconnected to it. He just, and I say he wasn't. So he responded in a way that probably he didn't know who would lead it, right? And so that became the mission of who is the right person to lead this, right? These are people are coming to us broken. Yeah. And so I have to say that I got the support immediately because our pastor, there was a direct personal connection because he married someone that was divorced, right? Yeah. So our first lady was married before. And so he had his own struggles of church, of marrying, right? A woman who had been married before. So he was had already gone against the grain of what, right, a first lady should be.
Right. What the church says a first lady should be.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what the church. So we knew that we were, I believe, a church that wasn't about the norm. We were a church that said its ministry is going beyond the four walls, right? And really discussing the matters of the heart. And that's what I believe we were at that space. And when you talked about your pastor saying the same way you look at Alcoholics Anonymous, that is exactly how we run Twyla. We run the ministry in that same capacity. But there's elements that we add that I think is unique.
Yeah.
Because I want to say this, and I've done this research for quite some time because I'm building a whole community where individuals can subscribe, get really great content, and they can, listen to stories. And there's a reason why I'm making it subscription where no one can just get on, because when people are experiencing divorce, it is a death.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Right? It's why it's a death.
Been there. Yes.
It's a death. And so when you're going through that, some of us need that private time, right?
Yeah.
Within ourselves. And sometimes we're able to open ourselves up. But I want to share with you the research on divorce. So when I research divorce in the Bible, divorce is mentioned about a dozen times. Okay, divorce, right? But when I look at marriage or wedding, marriage is only together with love and commitment.
Yeah. Come on.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you research weddings, weddings is about 7 times. So walk with me for a minute, Twyla, because you said I want you to take this and say to yourself, like, why isn't church not doing it? Because here's what happens. The Bible doesn't speak to weddings in the way that
the world
and the world sees it. But what does church do? They are officiating weddings every week, right? So we are doing that. But what happens is that we've actually there's more discussions of divorce in the Bible, but we haven't touched it.
Right.
We haven't touched it. So how, I will say this, for us, we've allowed the world to dictate. So when you shout about the pastor on a subject that ultimately is our responsibility.
Yeah.
It is our responsibility because it is something that is mentioned in the Bible, right? It is mentioned. But when we see marriage is committed, it's love and commitment. So you have to realize that divorce is also a form of love. In the brain, because you can't get married, Twyla, you can't get divorced without what? Getting married.
Exactly. Right.
So there was love in it, however you want to look at it, whether I loved his legs, I loved her arms, whatever it is.
Yeah, love. It was somewhere in it. Right. Yeah.
It was somewhere in it. But what I will tell you is that the responsibility that I took on to say, hey, we need to do this, was not well received by all the parties that be. Okay. So
received by who?
All ministry,
the leadership,
right? The entire leadership. No, everybody was not on board. And I'll
but
tell
your
you,
pastor,
my pastor was.
Pastor.
My pastor was, but let me say this. I could see when it was time for us to present our numbers, folks was not, excited. Folks were not happy to see that people were coming to get healed. But I'll tell you why. Because in their minds, they're operating in the world of what they say about divorce. So we knew that I knew, and I know that the Holy Spirit knew that I was going to have an attack. Okay.
Yeah, because people are coming to be healed, and the enemy doesn't want that. So when you started the class, okay, so you get the approval, the pastor is on board 100%. Now there are some other leaders in the church that don't approve of it because, in my opinion, not just for your church, I'm just generally speaking. They probably feel like they are condoning divorce as opposed to, no, this is a matter of just like somebody else that needs healing from a physical death, or they're grieving, whatever the case may be. So it doesn't mean you're in support of divorce. And this is what we talked about on last week during my show with Pastor Kenton D. Wiley. It doesn't mean that you're in support of divorce. It just means that there's a need, and people in your church body that you shepherd need help as it relates to divorce. So the first year, Larvetta, when you kicked this class off, what were the numbers?
So the first year, I think we had about 12. It might have been about 12 to 15 people.
Wow. Well, that's good. That means that people need it,
And then we continue. We did it twice. One year, I think we did it. Did we do it 3 times a year? No, we did it twice a year. And the numbers started growing. And then the numbers went down. It went down, and we had all men.
Wow.
All men.
All men in one class.
All men.
Wow. So how this class is offered how many times a year and what is taught? So there may be some people out here wondering, and there may be somebody out here listening and watching right now, and they want to start a group. So based on your model, how many times a year is it offered? And what is the program or the curriculum? What are you teaching?
So we do it twice a year. We do one in the fall and winter, and then we do one in the winter and spring. And it is for 13 weeks.
Wow.
We do it for 13 weeks. It is curricular based that we use. We use an outside company to use their curriculum to be able to facilitate videos and discussions. So there is a part of that curriculum comes with a workbook. The cost of our current class is $35, which includes an
Does that include the curriculum, the workbook?
Well, it doesn't. We stopped doing the workbook merely because of COVID. We had to have them shipped to us and ship them back. So now we have a relationship where they can order the workshop on their own. And so they can have the workshop or not have the work. I mean, they can have the workbook or not have the workbook. It's not required. But in that $35, we also host a worship. We have worship. So we have a DJ for 30 minutes where we worship for the first 30 minutes because we know that many of our participants and members come from work, or they're preparing for their kids. So just having a moment for their mind, to regulate their mind, right? So that they can come and be fed, right? And be full. And so we start with prayer. And then we also have a featured testimonial opportunity. So we bring in other individuals who have faced divorce, and we allow them to share their testimonies. So that helps to connect them, make it real to what they're experiencing. And then we do our full-base curriculum with facilitators. We have 6 facilitators that is part of my core ministry. And so we rotate and we do 13 weeks. At the end of the 13 weeks, when we were in session, meaning when we were in session before COVID, at the end of the session, we did a look at me now headshot party. And so that is for us to feel good about ourselves. So we bring in a photographer. Many of the women and men hadn't taken a picture since the picture, right, with your spouse.
Yeah.
So taking any pictures.
I love that.
So we do that, and then we have some food, and then they get certificates, completion of their 13 weeks. And so we do that, and then we also bring in a speaker. So we've had the first lady of our church. We've had several people to come in and speak to all of the participants. And then we also have vendors to help them. So there could be books, there could be family counseling if they are working through like parental agreements and things like that. So we use it as a resource, and we also allow for them to invite their family, their kids, their support, their tribe, to be able
This is once they've completed the class.
13 weeks, correct. And so with COVID, we were not able to do that. So in exchange, what we did do is we did a vision board, a virtual vision board party. So we had our DJ, individuals were able to do their own vision boards post class. And so those are some of the things that we did. It's more, and so when you think about the way that we do it, we're just not opening up or having you open up a workbook, right? And go through the book. We really are there to support you, navigate through that process, and really cheer you on through that process. So whether whether that means you're going through the divorce.
Yeah.
And you want somebody to say, hey, today I got the divorce. I remember, Twyla, we had one young lady, she had just come back from divorce court, and she brought a cake for everybody. I mean, she brought a cake for us all to celebrate. And so that's what she did. So sometimes people come in and we are their only community or family.
Meeting people right where they are. Now, let me ask you, Larvetta, are these, do they have to be members of your church? If they,
Absolutely not.
okay.
Absolutely
So
not.
how do you all, I have a couple of questions for you, but how do you all market this group if you're not a member of the church?
So here's what we do. You know, the whole teach one, bring one.
Yeah.
So we take all of our existing participants, and their responsibility when they leave is to bring one person.
Bring one person. Okay.
Doesn't have to be a member, but typically in this community, you know one person because you're going through it.
Right.
And so with that model, we typically, it makes the process easier because there's a trust. There's some trust established.
Right.
And so we find that to be quite helpful. Obviously, we have it in the church's app, the website, and then of course, all of our facilitators were all connected to people that are faced with divorce. And then we have the other novel thing that we do is we break every group is called a season. So instead of it being year this, it's season 1, season 2, season 3.
Oh, I like that.
And so they build a community. And so when we come together as one group, they all rep, hey, season 2, hey, season 3. And everybody is like in this room. And I do it specifically because I don't want people to walk with divorce. Divorce is not a death sentence. So you don't have, it's not a death sentence. So you have the ability to tell people, hey, I'm getting together with my group. We're called season 7. You can say that, or we're season 5, or we're season 4. And so it really helps to keep that word. And I say this personally, what helped me in my divorce was I didn't say divorce. I said I had a failed marriage. I refuse, and that's what my pastor, he said, I love how you eloquently communicated to others that I didn't go through a divorce. I had a failed
marriage. Failed. Right. That sounds a little better. Right.
It sounds so much better.
And you know what? What are the requirements for the facilitators? Do they go through a training prior to becoming certified? Is it a certification?
No, that's something that we probably will do in the future. But a facilitator can only be a facilitator if they've completed 13 weeks of class. Okay, so they have to go through the class, show up, be present.
Have they been through divorce?
Yes, they all have to go through divorce.
Okay.
They all have. No one facilitates.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to clap and raise the roof on that because, folks, I just said it the other day on my show last week. May have said it in the first episode as well. You don't understand. I'm going to use Larvetta's phrase, a failed marriage, i.e. divorce, unless you've been through it yourself. And so to have facilitators Larvetta, that have experienced it, that's so much more powerful. I'm loving this.
Absolutely. And we're intentional with that. Very intentional. So
absolutely.
I
was to know them and what they've gone through. And another thing is that's highly important. Have they recovered from divorce?
Yes.
Have they healed from divorce?
Yes. So what happens is
teach others this class.
And what we're able to do is we stagger it, right? And when I say stagger it, currently we're in season 7. So if someone says they want to be a facilitator, they're not going to jump in as a facilitator in the next one. What we do is have them shadow and support us on our online portal, whether that means just calling our members and, and just checking in on them. And then we just kind of warm them up, if you will, warm them up so that they feel comfortable and confident from it. And then we pair them with, someone who has already done facilitation, so that they're kind of with I'll call them a little bit more seasoned, but we don't really look at it like that because everybody's healing process is very different. That's the other part. Some people can heal in, for whatever reason, a year. Some people can heal in 10 years, 15 years.
And I want to ask you this. After 13 weeks and the class is over, and say, for instance, as we're talking about timing and everyone heals differently, if someone needs more, what do you do at that point?
A great question. You can always come back. This is not a closed 13 weeks. So many of our members, what happens is they're not even divorced. So we really speak on restoration. We speak on it because sometimes this is what you and perhaps your spouse might have needed this time to really focus on yourselves and think about that. Yeah. So we've had several people to be reconciled in marriage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we have seen
going through this class.
After going through.
Wow.
So we know it works because we've got people who say it works. And so they did that. And so sometimes people are there. We do not encourage, none of our facilitators encourage divorce. That is a decision that you make.
Absolutely.
So people can go through 2 13-week sessions and they still aren't divorced. So you can,
that's like 6 months almost. Right. There's 6 months.
Yeah. You can come as much as you want.
Yeah.
The doors are open. The church stays open. We are open for you, and you can come back as much as you like. Yeah. We even have people who've remarried and have come back.
Wow.
So, and they want a refresher to make sure that they can divorce-proof their second or third marriage.
Yes, that's awesome.
So
they go through the healing process that it takes to go through divorce.
Exactly.
It's a healing journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is. And Twyla, the other thing is that we like to think that our ministry is about your journey into wholeness, into healing. Mm-hmm. And so that journey to wholeness and healing, whether you're separated or whether you are in a third or fourth marriage, that's what we say. And so we are there through it because what we want more than anything is we want to please God.
Yes. Amen.
And by pleasing God, we have to have the heart, and we have to have the compassion that He has for us.
Yes.
We really do. And so I think that a lot of folks who come back after they've remarried, they need that refresher because those triggers come back, right? Those triggers come back. Yeah. And when we look at the numbers of second marriages and the divorce rate
is even higher.
It's even higher.
Yes. Yeah. And the third is higher. So
but you know what that is, Twyla? That's because we haven't done the work the first time or the second time.
That's right. A lot of people jump back out there too fast, too soon.
Exactly.
Without going through the healing process and the journey that it takes to be healed.
Yeah.
And it is a journey. And so, wow, Larvetta, this is awesome. And you know what? My prayer and my goal for doing this series is that somebody will start support groups in their church.
Absolutely.
Across the board as it relates to divorce. And the people that are teaching that class, this is imperative. Oh my gosh. Please, ma'am, have experienced divorce because that's how people are going to connect with you. That's why I asked you that question, Larvetta. I thought the facilitators, is that one of the requirements? And I figured it would be, but I just wanted to confirm. But yes, people need this, and it's happening so much in the church. And a lot of people, like my guest on the first episode, she just didn't feel comfortable going to her church. She was ostracized. I mean, it was a lot for her. She was already going through a divorce, and then and little did she know she was going to have to leave her church family or divorce her church family, unbeknownst to her. And so, wow.
And Twyla, I would like to add that because we get that, I went to another church before my church didn't have divorce care. So of course I had to go someplace else or have a divorce support group. But one of the things that we do that is, I think, completely unique, which is why we are evolving the ministry, is you sign an agreement. There's an agreement that you sign, much like a contract, that everything that is shared is kept confidential.
It's confidential. Absolutely.
And there's no negotiation, being kind, no laughing. Like we really set these policies in place.
Yes.
And everyone is responsible for signing that. So that gives us, and I'll say this, that gives us permission to say, perhaps this doesn't work for you right now. People can, we can do that because we are here to serve.
Yes.
And when we're here to serve those who are broken, right? And
That's
so
right.
they're fragile. And
Yes.
so with that, we have to understand that because they're fragile, your response or your tone can trigger, right? So be kind.
Right.
To them. And so we're very sensitive to that. We're so sensitive. We've had people that we had to ask them to leave.
Oh yeah, this is serious, folks. Absolutely. We're Larvetta. You know what? This has been an amazing conversation. I really thank you so very much for coming on to share in this series, the Divorce Saint series, because it's so important and it's a heavy topic, but it's a sensitive topic. And again, to bring awareness to the church body that we need support groups in the church for divorcees. Yes. And so, Larvetta, at this time, if you want to share your contact information, how can people contact you out there on social media? There may be someone listening or watching that is interested in starting a support group and want to come to you as a support, a wealth of knowledge. So you can go ahead, please, and share your contact info.
So online, I want to make sure that I disclose this. Yeah. My handle is Larvetta Speaks. You can inbox me. The reason why I don't promote this is partly because of the sensitive nature that it is.
Yeah.
And so because of it, if you reach out to me, if you are a church and you want to figure out how to start, I've helped churches to get their groups started. I can help you start your group. The second thing is I can also support you if there is a specific need. I will do some divorce coaching, people that are going through divorce. I will take on a very small group just for time reasons that I work with them for that. I've worked with several people in that capacity who just didn't want support group, right? They didn't want a group. They wanted that one-on-one attention. So I work with them for that. And again, I only take referrals. So I don't promote it. If you reach out to me, because I want people who are serious about healing.
Absolutely.
And then if you want to know about our next group, we are currently in one right now. We're in week 5. And so we will be starting the next group in the fall. So if there's interest there, certainly reach out around that. And then I also want to add that we're building out an amazing platform called the Divorce Haven that will run through the church. And that's what I mentioned to you, where you will allow, which is what I talked about, a subscription service. We're working on it, where it will just give you access to videos and people like yourself that people can connect. We hope to have a resource guide and just other people that we've met through this process that could help facilitate, whether that's a conversation or facilitate counseling, facilitate buying a home. I mean, a number of
this is awesome. And it's called Divorce
So
Haven.
we're working on it. We're in the process of the
This is awesome.
trademark Divorce Haven. It
A
will be
resource for divorcees.
Mhm. And so it will be for men and women, not for it will be for men and women. Everything we do, I want to make sure that we're clear, even for me. This isn't about a man issue or a woman issue.
That's
It is
right.
a human issue. And
That's
so
right.
that's where we have to understand that oftentimes when we think about divorce, he did this, she did this. Really, it's about humans who had unresolved issues before they came into the marriage that has greatly impacted the marriage.
That is so true. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. Yes, yes, you're so right. You're so right. You have to be whole yourself before you bring someone else into your life. Wow, wow, wow. Well, Larvetta, again, I thank you so very much for coming on tonight to share. This was a wealth of information, and I pray that somebody will start a support group in their church. And throughout this entire series, that something was said to bring awareness that some changes should be made. And folks, thank you all so very much for tuning in on tonight. It's been an amazing series. And listen, next week, I'm taking a week off. So no show next week. And then
good for you, Twyla. Good for you.
Then we're kicking off another series, folks. Bonus mom, bonus dad. So I have 3 powerful, amazing guests. It's going to run for 3 weeks. So tune in starting April the 4th, and you will be inspired by that series. So again, thank you all so much. Until April the 4th, this is Coach Twyla, the Get Your Happy Back Divorce Coach. I am out.
What a great show! Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, the Divorce Talk with Twyla show is out.